Hi, Suzanne.
Hi.
Thanks for agreeing to have a bit of a chat with me. I've done a couple of chats with people recently on very different things. Sort of one was a guy who ran a startup, and they've done quite a lot of interesting work because their business model was turned inside out, really. And then Zoe recently, who sort of real marketing expert. But I was kind of really intrigued to talk to you because you run a training business, and training is sort of what you've done for a long time. And I just thought it can't be working the way it has been working, but at the same time, there are bound to be new needs that business identify. So I suppose what's going, first off, an intro of sort of who you are and what you do and what the business is, but then what's going on in the world of training, really?
Yeah, well, it really is different. And I think like most businesses, it's really affected us. So predominantly our business is training face-to-face, which we cover all sectors across, 60 different course offerings. But predominantly, we pride ourselves in going into companies and being able to do bespoke training for them based around their needs and their objectives. And obviously, that is face-to-face, and it has been, that is our heart of our business, as well as running scheduled courses, again, face-to-face in one of our many hotels that we run them in throughout the year. So when, we were put in this lockdown, we had to very quickly look at our business model and our offerings. And, we had to postpone everything from the end of March right up till, the end of May at the beginning, because we just didn't know what was ahead of us. And literally, we just had to stop everything where we were and just, it just stopped. And so what we kind of did is we talked to our customers and we asked them, how did they want to progress? Did they still want this training that we could offer it virtually for them? I think back in the day, at the end of March, people hadn't even heard of Zoom. Sure. So even though we had, and we had done this, for one-to-ones, maybe for one of our, for coaching, we hadn't necessarily ever done it with a group for a training session, because, as I say, predominantly our business is face-to-face classroom or in-house business. So we kind of found that we just went boof, like most companies found themselves in these unprecedented times, and we quickly had to adapt by thinking about what we could do as a business to pivot very quickly, and then what we could offer our customers that that they wanted. And so we were giving people the choice who'd already booked courses with us to potentially do that online with us. Some were very nervous about the whole idea of doing that, but some people said, yeah, let's review it in a month. So I think with the first initial lockdown, everyone went into that panic stage of, oh no, what's happening? But because we just didn't know how long it was going to last, it was kind of like, well, let's review this in April. Let's review this in May. And I think once we got to the end of April, beginning of May, we knew that this wasn't going to go away in 6 weeks, and that we were looking more long term. And so not only did we start offering the courses that were already booked in as virtual courses, what we started doing then is offering courses that we thought would be of a benefit to companies who are also in this strange situation and strange times. And so what we started doing then is offering virtual courses instead of our scheduled face-to-face courses. And I did a few free webinars as well, again, just to try and give people peace of mind of what was going on, and if I could give them tips and tricks of how they could manage their time better, or manage staff, remote teams, or whatever. And we were trying to do as much as we could, whilst also remaining in contact with our customers to say, we're still here if you need us.
Yeah, because that was one of the things I was thinking about. There must have been people who really were used to everybody physically being sat in the same building, sometimes in kind of line of sight.
Yeah.
Adjusting to how they were working in a new environment. People sat at home. Did people were asking for training around that?
I think initially people were just in shock, and businesses were just trying to sort out their own. For me, it was kind of like wasn't on people's mind, like, oh, we were supposed to be seeing Suzanne or one of her trainers next week to do whatever it is, let's still do it virtually. Because I think at the beginning it was like that change model where everyone goes into shock and what are we going to do here? And so I think for the first few weeks, certainly, we give people options. We give existing customers options of what was available for them. And then we revisited it sort of 3-4 weeks later. Again, we kept in contact with them. And by all means, we were going to react as quickly as we needed to. But we also were very aware that people were going through that shock stage. Yeah. People were realizing that they couldn't go to work or they couldn't go to the office. So what did they do? And it was taking a lot of time just to sort the fundamentals and structure of re-looking at customers and re-looking at their own workforce of how they could work with them. So, it was kind of for us then to go and say to them, okay, now look at the new norm. Everyone's sitting at home. Do you have the technology to do this? Most people did. And so I suppose with that, we were then saying, okay, so you've had a go of it now. You see how your meetings can work with your team. So we can actually introduce that as well by doing a training course for you. But it'll be very different. We're not going to just have this training course. It's just the same. It has to be conducted very differently. And it won't be just a block day. We'll have to do it over a number of days with things in between, like exercises and tasks in between. So we wanted to use it not just like an online experience. We wanted to make it as more of a blended experience where they could learn offline as well as on. And so it was just about offering people options, I think, at the time. And just making sure that they knew that we were still here for them to give them advice and assistance and support where we could. And if that the option was there to train their staff as and when we needed to. And that's what we did.
And are there some businesses now that have moved into another phase where they're getting a bit more proactive? They kind of got, I'm not sure any of us have really got used to how we're working now. No. They're kind of, I don't want to use the word resigned to it, but they're sort of thinking, right, actually, this isn't going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So are they starting to identify their own needs a bit more rather than you having to say, have you thought?
Yeah. Yeah. I think initially what the reaction was is what's happening here. Let's ride the storm for a few weeks. Let's see what's happening. And certainly from our point of view, when we were looking at postponing or rescheduling, people were like, no, we're going to wait for face-to-face. Well, when you can come back next month. So I think initially everybody thought this would be a lockdown of a month and then we'd all get back to normal. I think from speaking to people at the end of March, when we initially went into lockdown, to when we spoke to people, say again, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks, and certainly middle of May, when people realised, whoa, this isn't actually going away anytime soon, is it? What we then got was people coming back to saying, remember back in March, you offered us to do this. Well, actually, it doesn't look like we're going to get back into the office, but before at least September, and we need this training. So can we now look at booking a date in for this training to be done virtually with our teams? So I think we've seen people pivoting as well as us pivoting to look at the needs. We also seen companies, the realization was that we weren't going back to normal within a month of us being in lockdown, and then people's mindset started changing. And I also think people started realizing what they were good at and what maybe they weren't good at, and what they were now working with these new structures, new strategic ways of working, and they just weren't used to it. So it's kind of like, how could we come in and help them manage remote teams, help individuals manage their time better? And you weren't, when we looked at, for instance, time management, a lot of that had to be brought in about, it's not just about managing your time in the workplace anymore. It's about managing your time because you're now potentially working on a kitchen table, homeschooling 2 children at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was like, forget about your 9 to 5 way of how we used to train this and how we get so much in our day. What we need is flexibility and an organization, so that when you have got that time on your kitchen table, you're using it effectively. But you've also gone are the days when it's 9 to 5, because you may be catching up at 9 o'clock at night because you've been homeschooling for 2 hours in the morning. And so, we really had to see a shift in in people's ability to accept that, because people were getting very stressed that they couldn't get a productive day's work done in the 9 to 5 that they're used to doing, and they were having to make lunches for their kids, do some homeschooling and maybe let the dog out for a walk, and all of a sudden it was like, wow. So we had a lot of people who were kind of getting quite stressed out. So I did some one-to-ones with a lot of people as well, where just to look at their working day and how they could better manage themselves and not have that level of stress building up. I think it shifted slightly, and we've looked at mental health in the workplace as well, because the workplace is not static in the office now, it's also in people's homes. So again, we've looked at how we can help line managers and companies and directors look at how they are managing the mental health of their staff who are at home. Deal with what's going on as well as potentially keeping holding a job down whilst looking after your kids.
Because I've been thinking about that, the role of managers and how difficult it must be for them a lot. And I suppose I'm lucky in a way, because a lot of my career is in the travel industry. So I've always had direct reports who've been in a different country. So I've been quite used to that thing of I've got really no idea when you work, or sometimes what you do, but I kind of know what the outputs look like, and I know how we can communicate, and I'm confident with it. But you think of a lot of environments where people just have no contact outside the walking a couple of meters across a building and saying, how's it going? And it must be a massive adjustment for people who've never managed people that aren't in front of them.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing, because the feedback that I got was it's different. Some people have embraced working from home, and they've absolutely loved the fact that they don't have a 2-hour commute every day, and they see the kids for breakfast, they get home, they're there for dinner. So some people are like, wow, this is amazing, and they just embrace it and think, I would never want to go back to commuting or working in an office ever again. I can't see the need. And then I've got other people are just dying to get back to work, because they just miss that, as you say, that how are you doing? Right, there's a bit of an issue going on here. And a conversation I had with somebody last week was, one of the things they said to me was, now, although we all know we're working, if I have an issue or a problem or something's happened, I can turn to my colleague and say, oh, we've got this going on, what do you think? And we can have a quick 5-minute chat. Whereas now, even though I know that person's still working, I can't see what they're doing, or, if they're available. And for me now, it's more like they were saying it's like an intrusion. You phone someone up or email them or try and Zoom them and say, I need a chat, can we talk about this? Because I don't really know where they are in their working day. And so it is a real mixed bag of, some people are used to managing remote teams. And so therefore they've kept up, making sure people have got clear direction, clear objectives, clear goals. And then other people have gone, well, I don't even know what they are anymore. You've got managers going, I don't even know what they are anymore. How am I supposed to do this? And then we've got the other side is how do we now monitor people's performance?
And it's probably going to vary a lot from sector to sector, isn't it, as well? Because in a more creative sector, my guess would be, and a bit of my own experience having worked for a while in that sort of area, is a lot of the most productive conversations are the unplanned ad hoc ones that just sort of organically happened, and you just go, oh, let's drag Mary into the room as well, because it'd be really interesting to have her kind of insights. That's really hard if people are sat at home and their timing is less predictable.
Absolutely. And I think as well, what I found is, depending on what sector you work in. So predominantly, if you work in an office and you don't rely too much on your team, you can just get your head down, and more IT stuff and IT based, where it's all, you can see what you're doing. I think, people like that are just relishing being at home, because you've not got any disturbances around you and things going on. And they don't rely on other people in a team to help them out or be part of that team. But I think, as you say, like the more creative types or people who feed off ideas will find it harder and are finding it harder just being out the loop, and they feel quite isolated at the moment. And I think that's one of the things that we have to start making sure that managers, companies understand, that actually, you know, there's a lot of people out there are embracing it, but there's also a lot of people that feel isolated.
Yeah.
And I think depending on your circumstances at home, you know, if you have to work off a kitchen table, it's very different than working in an office that you can close a door on. So again, I think we all have to be mindful of that, that production is potentially going to go down because we're not in normal times, and therefore the output of somebody doing a job on a daily basis is not a clear 8 hours anymore.
Yeah.
And so we have to have that flexibility that, you know, somebody might be emailing you at 9 o'clock at night because they haven't been able to email before that. And it's trying to tap into that and say, look, we have to have flexibility here, but we also have to have open communication, and understand from both sides, from the business side about what they need to achieve, but also from the side of the person sitting at home, you know, how they are and how they can achieve it more so.
Have you had any businesses come to you with a training need coming out of people coming back off furlough? Because that's an area that I've thought of a bit. There must be people who, I think some businesses have been really good at still talking to people who are on furlough and letting them know what's going on. I think some haven't. Some have really just kind of gone quiet on employees. It's a real shame. But is that something you're getting approached about? Or
I think in the last couple of weeks, certainly since more people have gone come off furlough, we've had more inquiries to look at how they can adjust, looking at the new norm. And I think again, it's more around the management. It's about how the management can lead from the front, how the management need to, you know, they've got to really lead their teams into the new norm kind of thing, at least for now, and lead by example and make sure that they've got clear direction. I think one of the things that, you know, I certainly, when I speak to sort of directors of company, have a clear direction of what you want to achieve. You know, even if it's a bit foggy at the moment, still have a bit of a clear direction of what you want your business to look like. What do you still need to achieve as a business? Because you've still got to earn money. You've still got those, you know, you've still got to strategically look at how your business is going forward. So what part do your team play in that, and be open and honest with them that, you know, it's not a walk in the park. It's not going to, you know, I think this idea that when you go back into the office it'll all be all normal again. It's not. And I clearly found that out last week when I did my first face-to-face training day, how different the working environment is. And that was in a manufacturing plant that hadn't stopped throughout lockdown.
Okay, they just kept going.
They kept going because they had to. And the need was there because they were producing one of our essential items.
Right.
And so they kept going. But even talking to my delegates last week, even the changes are from not having masks on at the beginning to having masks on now. You know, all of them going through this tunnel of looking at our temperatures when we went in, down to the dining room, you know, where we could dine, how we could dine, making sure we were all 2, 3, 4 meters apart, even in a queue to queue up for a cup of tea, you know. And it's all strange, and you're like, oh, whoa, what, you know, what am I doing? Have I done this? And it is, but you do quickly get used to that. But I think it's going to take time, and it's not going to just bounce back to normality as soon as, because people come back to work. And I think that's the importance of what leaders and line managers at the moment and business owners have to think about, you know, how are staff feeling? Are they feeling apprehensive? And if they are, what are they doing about it? You know, what can they do as guidelines to make sure that everyone's clear and that there's quite a lot of mixed messages at the moment, what we can and can't do. And I think it's good for a company to really have a clear message about, you know, what their guidelines are and how they're going to help their staff through this difficult period as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, you know, when I think of some of the things I'm doing with some of my clients, so much of it is around communication, because skipping back to one of the things you just said, I think there's a real opportunity for businesses to look at all of their processes and shifting demand from their customers and change their offering a bit. And there'll be an impact on their staff of that. Do people more adjust? Do you need more people in one area of the business, less in another? But they've just got to keep communicating it and talking, and it being very open. I think people will be, my gut feel is pretty understanding to sort of open and sometimes difficult conversations as long as people are honest. And
and I think as well as the key is adaptability and flexibility in the workplace at the moment, because as you say, you may have been working in one department, but actually that department is not really, there's not a great utilization maybe in a certain department, but we might have to flip our skills slightly. So I've been looking at a lot of customer service skills, because somebody who may have just been, they may have been doing one job, and all of a sudden the concentration is our customer service, and why are our customers not getting through to us? Our emails aren't being answered. So do we need to take people from certain areas and double our customer service department to ensure that our customers know where we are? So it's looking at individual businesses at the moment and saying, what is the need of the business, and how can the staff actually fill those holes and make sure that we are concentrating the areas where we need our staff to be in, and not necessarily coming back to doing the job that they were doing, but are now maybe doing semi jobs in certain areas that are needed most.
God, it's fascinating, isn't it? And never ending. Are there trends that you can sort of see coming out over the next sort of 12 months, or is it sort of still a bit too early to know where things are going?
I think I think that the trends in training that we're seeing at the moment, again, go back to probably a bit about where it started a month ago, where again it's management training, managing remote teams, looking at mental health, time management, stress, all of that, flexibility, and even looking at the change, how we go through change and making sure everybody's aware of that. I think going forward, where I see it going is, I think people are going to be a lot more open-minded to flexible training, and ourselves included. So even though we did offer, I suppose some flexible blended training, as we call it, rather than it just be e-learning, it's a blend of both virtual and self-learn. What I think is we will see that trend coming in, where people are more aware of that now, and it's not abnormal to have a virtual classroom environment for training anymore. Will I think it will take over? I don't know. I think it's too early to say. Personally, I think there's nothing better than being in front of people face to face, to have a real good debate, and to be able to see each other and to bounce ideas off each other and that. But I don't think virtual training or blended training or e-learning is going anywhere fast. I think it will grow, it will evolve, and I think people will be more accustomed to that style of training, where I think 4 or 5 months ago wasn't on people's agenda, or it was, but only for certain things. So I still, I do see blended online training, virtual training evolving even further. Be more offering of it, and I think all styles of training I think still have to be flexible, 100% flexible. I also think as well, it depends on the topic that you're training in. I think some topics are great for virtual training, but other topics, like the training I did face to face, we had to do it face to face because it was a very practical session. And so us trying to do that, via virtual classroom would have been virtually impossible, not impossible, but we wouldn't have had the same scope or effect, or the delegates wouldn't have come away with the same learning experiences as we probably would have done if we were in a virtual classroom. And so I think for the next 12 months, it will be very probably unsure what to say, but I think what we will find is people will have a better understanding of flexibility and how things can be delivered, and there's going to be pluses and minuses with face-to-face. There's going to be pluses and minuses with virtual, and there'll be pluses and minuses with e-learning. But the difference will be, at least there's an option to have one if one doesn't fit. And so, you know, I think we are in a transient period now where we're going to see it evolving into different platforms. And then we'll be very much led by how businesses feel, what businesses want, and how we can adapt our training, certainly to meet their own objectives and business strategy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a way it's quite, whilst it's quite daunting because you're having to change so much in your business, it's quite exciting because you could end up with lots of different models and offerings that all deliver value, but for different clients and different environments. And
Absolutely. So, you know, we've just released our next bout of training. So hopefully from September, we fingers crossed it, but we've rescheduled a lot of our courses that we postponed the last 4 months into new schedules through September, October, November, December. And we've already had lots of bookings on them. And these are face-to-face at the moment. So we're just hoping that come middle of September that we are allowed to do that. And then on top of that, we are also offering the blended virtual learning as well. So, and starting from August. And well, we've been doing that anyway, but we've offered now more dates starting alongside our scheduled and our in-house face-to-face. We're also offering that option of blended learning too. Yeah. So what I don't believe is what's going to happen is once we're all back to some kind of normality, we will just forget about virtual and we'll all go back to where we were. I don't think that will ever happen. To what extent virtual training will take over, who knows? Who knows? I think that will be led by need and want and personal preferences from businesses going forward.
Well, there's a lot to keep an eye on. Sounds like
it's not a dull moment, is it?
No.
Never a dull moment.
No, it's been brilliant to talk to you about it because it's, you know, the training is not a world I know well. You know, I've when I've been in businesses, I've brought in people to train on things, and I've worked a bit with trainers, and I've obviously been trained at various points. I'm not sure what a great trainee I was, but so it's really good to understand some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities you've spotted to do different things as well.
Yeah, and I think it was really important that we did spot those opportunities and pivot really quite quickly, rather than just hoping for the best, fingers crossed, and hoping it was all going to go away. Because I think we realised that it wasn't going to go away anytime soon, and it's just making sure that we're ready for the next stage and how we can bring the business into where we need it to be now.
Excellent. Well, hopefully catch up again in the future and see how it all panned out.
Yeah, come back to me in 6 months and I'll let you know where we are and look back at this conversation and say, well,
that was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. What's changed? So, but fingers crossed. Yeah, we are seeing some kind of, rhythm of getting back to some kind of normality. But I think it's a while yet.